For years, the Disney Corporation has been the home of imagination, magical stories, princesses, and magic wands. And they have avoided political issues beyond tax breaks and keeping Mickey and other intellectual property from the public domain. And we've seen that change recently, as we've been discussing today, most recently, and perhaps most notably, with their harsh and misleading public criticism of Florida's parental rights in education bill. Now, we've also seen a backlash emerge, both at the personal level, with families boycotting Disney World and canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions, and at the political level, such as the measure we discussed last segment with the potential revocation of a special tax district. Now, here with me to talk about the fallout that Disney has experienced is John Stemberger. He is the president of the Florida Family Policy Council. John, good to see you today.
Joe, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, you have had a front row seat to this debate between Disney and the Florida legislature, and in many ways, just the people of Florida. Is it fair to characterize Disney's recent political activism as unusual based on their history as a company?
I would say it's unusual for any corporation in America. We've obviously seen companies like Starbucks and Macy's fund amicus briefs and sign on to things, but never have we seen a corporation engage literally as a direct activist and align themselves with the LGBT movement as aggressively in terms of funding, in terms of threats, in terms of going from state to state and interfering with policy decisions. And so this is on a whole nother level. Disney has become, in essence, enemy number one to parents with small children. And they're going to feel the pain as a result of that. This is not something that's not going to go without consequences.
John, we've seen a lot from Disney recently, including leaked videos of the conversations between their executives and their creatives. What do you think it is that has led to the change for Disney as a company when it comes to advocacy on legislation like this?
Well, my understanding, we can start with the top, is that the chairman of their board is an open lesbian woman. And I would imagine that she's driving a lot of this change. As the CEO is just an employee of the corporation. He has to report to the board. And then there's just tremendous pressure by the LGBT movement. And, you know, it's just typical of these corporations. They have very little backbone and very little ability to say no to something. They fear at all costs any ability to anyone to criticize them. So they just cave. And so that's what Disney did. And it caved in a major way. There's also a considerable number of LGBT employees at Disney, certainly not the majority at all. And I think that a case can be made that the vast majority of Disney employees actually don't agree with this. And they have to basically bite their tongues in silence. There's already been websites. There's a congressional candidate out. There's lots of people underground in Disney that really don't like this at all. And the sad part about this, Joe, is that, you know, Disney used to be a neutral zone in our culture, right? Where you could leave your politics, leave whatever your beliefs you have, and you go and enjoy an amazing experience of entertainment. But that's not the case anymore. They've become fully politicized. They've become hardcore activists, and sadly, activists as enemies to parents with small children, as they have sought to defeat the Parents' Rights in Education bill, which they had no effect on whatsoever.
John, I think this case illustrates an important but unfortunate reality that neutral ground really is disappearing in America. And there's a lot of us who really would like to remain neutral on a lot of these things. We don't like conflict. We don't want to fight with everyone about everything. We don't want to think about every dollar we spend in terms of who it's supporting politically. Yeah. But increasingly, the neutral ground is disappearing. And so whether we like it or not, we do have to take sides. And that's something that the church, I think, is increasingly being called to. It's still uncomfortable for a lot of us. But this is just another illustration of the ways in which the neutral ground is disappearing, because, you know, going to Disneyland, watching a princess movie didn't used to be a political action, but today it seems it is. Now, John, in the last segment, we talked to Randy Fine, the state legislator, in Florida, and he's sponsoring legislation to remove a special taxing district that Disney has benefited from. What's your response to the way the state legislature has reacted to Disney, as well as Governor DeSantis?
Well, look, Disney has directly opposed not just the governor, but the entire Republican legislature. And they seem to forget that they're actually governed by them with the special district. And so they're now feeling the pinch from that because those special privileges are being removed. And we're having to ask ourselves, why did we really give them to them? It may have made sense back in, the late 60s or early 60s when they were setting up here. But we have other theme parks, SeaWorld, Universal here in Orlando, that don't get those special privileges. And so I think that it's only fair when you look at it across the board, play hardball with us in politics, game on.
John, there has been some indication that Disney may be regretting kind of the response to this, to the politicization that has accompanied their entire company as a result of their response. We know that a lot of people have publicly canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions. I haven't seen any indication of what this is really doing to their stock price or their overall revenue as a company. But do you think there's any sense in which Disney may come to regret or may already be regretting the way that their public statements have affected them as a company?
I think they are. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because they've kind of vowed to be the leader of opposing any thing that they interpret to be laws that oppose the LGBT movement. I know that Randy Fine, who you just spoke with, Representative Fine, he's going to be filing a bill to prevent transgender surgeries and transgender treatment to minors next year. And so I'm sure that's something that, again, the LGBT movement's going to look to Disney and say, okay, be the leader here in opposing this. And it's going to be interesting to see whether they have the same fierce posture that they had or whether they're going to take a hands-off situation. And Joe, back to the original point that I made, when you study civilizations and you study anthropology and sociology, you have to have common elements in order for there not to be just warring tribes. There has to be something to bring us together, God or religion, or the fact that the country is a good country, salute to the flag. All these things are now gone. Every time we destroy a neutral space, we're destroying a space where everybody can come together in a unified way. And it's a very sad thing. Boy Scouts have gone that way, the military's gone that way, and now Disney has gone that way as well. And we're losing these neutral zones, which enable us to come together as a people and just enjoy something that's not politicized. And it's a sad development, but Disney needs to feel the pain as a result of their bad actions here.
I would argue that professional sports is another one of those neutral spaces that used to bring people together, but increasingly has been politicized as well. And so we are losing those places where people can come together and not be aware of each other's political positions and just be united as Americans. But one final question I think I have for you, John. I want to refer to the videos, the conversations that we saw a little behind the curtain in the Disney creatives and how they were very upfront about the fact that they want LGBT themes, they want LGBT characters because they realize the power they have in media to define what's normal for young people and for families. What do you think is the right reaction for parents who are trying to raise kids in this moment? How should people be responding to the Disney company and the media they create?
Well, that's a great question, Joe. Everybody's got to make their own decision about consumer choices. But for me and my family, I remember one of our supporters said, John, is there a boycott going against Disney? I said, look, man, there's not a boycott. We're all at war with Disney. I mean, they are literally telling us that they're going after our children. The inside people and the artists and the creative departments are saying they want to put subliminal stuff in. They kind of showed the ugliness of their face with those videos being released. And I think this is something where we just need to take a stand and just say, you know what? There are other alternatives. Disney's not the end all. And it's just sad that an institution that produced some really beautiful entertainment early on has gone the way of bad politics for families and for children.
And something else that I hope comes out of this moment is that people jump into this space and people use the power of media and the power of story to create stories that compel us to be better than our worst impulses. And I hope that as we see the collapse of companies like Disney, people come in to fill that space because it's an important medium, and the church in many ways has neglected that. And I hope this inspires a lot of people to jump into that moment. John Stemberger, thank you so much for your time and all you do for the families of Florida. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Joe.